1825, it's morning. The sun has not yet arisen. It is England, and therefore it probably won't. It was a dark September morning. The mist had risen from wherever the fuck mist comes from and spread across the land, hiding it, shrouding it in like a kind of cotton wool style Christmas vignette. But it wasn't Christmas yet, nor would it be in 1825, because we hadn't invented it yet. It was a sad, sad state of affairs. In the distance, there is a wild screaming and hooting, as if some gigantic, monstrous metal thing has lumbered out of the forest and is about to eat you and all of your children. It's a train! Fuck me! No one's ever seen a train before. This is kind of brilliant. So a whole bunch of like little urchins and children and general shepherds and other family folk. There's even a butcher. And they all turn out to see a train come in. A train, a beautiful gleaming piece of Victoriana. The hope that we have for crushing the rest of the world under our imperial heel. This is how we're going to subjugate people to across the world. And the British Empire will never die. It will never die. We will never fuck it all up horribly. It's going to be really good. So the big train comes in. The children run screaming towards it. 2 of them are knocked down. It's okay. It's not going very fast, because if it goes more than 20 miles an hour, you'll pass out and die. We know this about trains. They're dangerous. It is a scary thing. The butcher stands in the back going, yeah, I've seen one of these before. His friends beat the shit out of him because he was a liar. I've never seen a train before. It's very exciting. It is also possibly relevant to the story. It is really the scene setting. We have a town through which a railway runs. Let's call it Nottingham. It's not a real place, don't worry, there'll be no references to actual things that take place in Nottingham because I don't know any of that local history detail. Other than there are caves, trains, we used to have 2 train sections. Now, slight diversion. Where we had Victoria train station in addition to the main train station, you could actually go north, south and east, west. And the reason that it takes ages to get anywhere from Nottingham is because we got rid of one of those stations. Wankers. As yet, we only have one train station in 1825. It is small. It is a tiny pokey thing that arrives in Carlton on top of a hill, which is for a good reason, because you've got to put a lot of effort into getting up the hill. Once you get up the hill, it's a free ride from down there. That'll take you all the way to, let's say, Staffordshire. This is all very exciting. What we need to know is that on board that train is a singular human being. A lady renowned in, well, the place that she comes from, Leamington Spa. Campagnola Fotherclop. She is a tall lady, monstrously tall, like as if a flamingo had been granted human life and flung into the world. She was equally vivid in colour. She was a striking lady, striking in all forms. Her skin was fluorescent pink. I think that we hadn't really discovered fluorescence hasn't really come up, so we've only barely got into light bulbs, I think, at this point. So fluorescence is something we only really see in sea creatures and their weird bioluminescence. It's possible that she is part starfish. Maybe by the end of the story we will learn more about that. Who knows? Anyway, she's tall, she's got clothes. She says...
It was just a little box of a place with a tiny window in the roof.
She says, it was just a little box of a place with a tiny place in the roof. The man that she was speaking to had been listening to her talk about this fucking room for nearly 4 hours. He said...
Well, the muscle will relax.
The muscle will relax. You can stop talking at any time. It'll be fine. Please don't. I didn't think I was going to be trapped on a train with you, Miss Fotherclop. Miss Fotherclop sighed and continued to talk. She said,
perhaps God will tell us what to do.
Will he? Will he? No, I didn't hear anything from God, so I'm going to tell you about my fucking flat, right? And she proceeded to for the remaining 45 minutes of their journey as it slowly ground into Carlton. It took nearly 45 minutes to get from just outside Carlton into Carlton. She stepped out over the 2 children that had been hit by the She looked down and said,
St. Peter had laid marks upon his back as a sign.
St. Peter laid marks upon his back as a sign. These 2 children are indeed that sign. The shape of their bodies, their gingerbread cutout style bodies, look exactly like the marks that were left upon St. Peter by the man who beat him and then, that's John as it cut his head off. St. Peter's another one. Anyway, they were on his back and I recognise those. That is a sign of...
Keep on kissing.
Keep on kissing. She turned alluringly back to the gentleman she'd been bothering for 4 hours. He dived out the other side of the train. She was alone once more. She strode into Carlton, a fine and noble place filled with
King Edward stroked his beard and then answered slowly.
King Edward, he stroked his beard and answered slowly. It was a small, sidebar, it's a small town in which we had one king, King Edward. He rode with an iron fist. They arrived on a train to this new tiny kingdom within Great Britain was bound to be very exciting for everyone. And Lady Fotherclop was excited to see King Edward, and she knew that he would have something cool and interesting and new to show off. He might even have
A donkey.
You might even have a donkey! Now, Campagnola Fotherclop was a fan of the equine. They're pretty cool, right? You know, even though we've got trains, we got horses, and we have donkeys. Donkeys can't bang other donkeys and make more donkeys. Like mules. Which is weird, so she was fascinated by the reproductive processes of other creatures. For example...
Two people kiss?
For example, two people kiss and boom! Baby! This is the great missing Victorian mindset. They hadn't really got into proper dissections of the human body yet. The furthest they got was...
No, my dear boy, of course not.
Of course not! We shouldn't just cut up a human cadaver. What a terrible thing to do. The Lord will be sad if we do. They need their internal organs to get into heaven. How do one get to heaven? It's why people that die in horrible accidents don't go to heaven. Like the two small boys next to the train. They wouldn't be going to heaven, and Mrs. Fotherclop knew that. And it was a sadness. And surely, however, King Edward would sort that out in no time. We need some more characters. Near Campagnola, there was a man called...
Maids.
Called... Maids! He was from London. Hello, my name's Maids! Well, I'm Q Colin. It's really an honour to have you here. Almost as good to have you as having the big train was to arrive. Look at that train, it's so big and frightening and made of steel, like a giant whale on wheels. And Campagnola nodded. It's true, she said. That is an apt description of this train, this locomotive beast that has brought steam into your home country. Now, I am here for a purpose. There is a plot to this story, I promise you. I am here to investigate a murder. Oh. Very good response. Said Campagnola to the baker. Very impressed by this story so far. Said, there has been a killing, and I have come to investigate it. I heard there was a man called...
Nurse.
There's a man called Nurse. A truly absurd concept in this century. A gentleman could assist with medical health, could help a person not die. That is purely for the ladies. Ideally, however, I will condescend to speak to this gentleman Nurse, for he has critical information that I need. King Edward and maids went, "Oi, lovely one, David, where we go?" And so she followed the casual directions given to her by maids. She wandered in her pink and fluorescent splendour down the Carlton High Road, which at that time was occupied by 3 shops. Oh.
These aren't words. Super fine quality.
Super fine quality! It gave us no further information about what the products were. We have super fine quality. We have another shop called...
Wine?
Called Wine, with a gigantic question mark. What was that? Super fine quality. This isn't going to help me. Wine and a third shop called...
His life.
called His Life. His Life. King Edward, as they're walking along, looked at His Life and said, "That shop's just for me." No one else can go in. Campagnola was like, "I see a wine shop. This is going to pretty much excite my journey." So she popped into the wine shop and inquired as to what manner of Beaujolais they might have. The lady within said, "What? Beaujolais? French wine? Get the fuck out! We only have fine English wines here like podcast. And baby sham. I can do you a gallon of baby sham if you like." I said, "Well, that's not really what I normally think. I have a more refined palate than that." All right, okay. You don't want baby sham. Perhaps you'd like...
Praying and singing together.
Praying and singing together. That's almost as good as alcohol. Because you can feel the Lord move through you like an alcoholic. Campagnola looked and said, "Fuck no." And she left that wine shop without any booze. This is the first day in Campagnola's life that she's had without booze. It's going to go downhill from here. They were going to a place. She abandoned the shops because they clearly weren't that good. And she visited the small house of Nurse. As we said, an implausible name. The house itself was a scruffy, squat, tiny terraced house with one window bang in the centre of the entire building and no visible door. As is common for those people that are from larger cities, she picked up a handful of gravel and began flinging it at the window in hopes of attracting his attention. This is before doorbells. What else are you going to do but throw gravel at people? This is a normal way to conduct oneself in high and normal society, and it is fine. So Campagnola flung gravel at the window until there was a resounding crack and the pane broke. She had been successful in attracting attention, for from within came a shout of
Wild Eye Keen!
Wild Eye Keen? Good? Yeah, no. Wild Eye Keen! Campagnola recognised the sound of a hunting Welshman. And recognising that danger was afoot, that perhaps there was even a murder even now underway, she scrambled up that building to try and get to the window, which was 9 feet above her head. But she was a tall lady and gifted with remarkably springy legs. So she bounced for a little while just to get the springs going. You have to warm up a spring. I don't know if you've ever done like basic physics and engineering, but spring is better once you've bent it a few times. And her legs were just like that. Like Spring Heel Jack, in fact, which was a better reference to begin with. Anyway, she leapt high into the air, 9 feet into the air to be precise, and caught onto the window frame with her fingertips, gashing them horribly on the glass that she'd only just broken. Undeterred, she hauled away into the shop, the building, and cried, "Nurse!" And a man lumbered out of the gloom. He was
Hugh.
He was Hugh, like one would a tree. He was also
Baptised.
And you could tell because he was still wet. A recent convert to the God's ways. Campagnola was thrilled. She didn't like trucking with unbelievers. They're a dangerous and filthy bunch. They mostly live in woods. She said to the young nurse,
"Oh, that joy so soon should waste."
"Oh, that joy so soon should waste." And nurse said, "Yes." Yes, you're right. Happiness is a river that flows downhill and away from us. It just lets out into the ocean of sadness and the realm of despair. I try to keep my happiness high and keep it up here, but it just runs away. Campagnola nodded. She understood. She too knew what it was like to suffer from manic depression. And she recognised this poor fellow in his little squat terrace house. He said, "Nurse, I've come to help you. It's about that murder." Nurse reacted with,
Yes!
"Yes! Someone's come to help! I reported to the local peelers, but we don't have those. That didn't happen until the 1870s. This is a nightmare, so we don't want to." Essentially, what I did was I wrote a note, put it in a bottle, and left it in a field. Hopefully, in 35 odd years, someone will find that, and then we'll investigate the crime that may or may not have been committed. Campagnola said, "I understand. We do crazy things to people we love. I, for example, once..."
Marched against the West Saxons.
I don't know which part it is the West Saxons. We didn't win. And I did lose my husband in the process of the war. But he knew that I loved him by the end. He knew and he understood. And were he still alive, I probably wouldn't be a detective, you see. Because although he was a wonderful man who I loved, he kind of held me back. He had traditional ideas about what a flamingo-looking woman should do. And being a detective wasn't one of those things. He wanted me to stay at home and do needlepoint and send aggressive letters to the local council. I didn't want to do those things. I wanted to
Look at the people who were standing around.
I want to look at the people who were standing around and judge them. I knew that I had a high discriminatory power in my heart. I could tell the difference between one person and another, between a criminal and a saint, between a baker, a butcher, and a candlestick maker. Mostly about smell, to be fair. It's not really about the eyes for those ones. So Campagnola said, "I have come with a plan. I'm going to..."
Special technique.
Let me show you my special technique for solving a murder. A little bit like Columbo, who you'll hear about in a couple of centuries. What I mostly do is I talk to someone until they confess. It's really effective. Chap I met on the train literally threw himself out of a train window rather than continue talking to me. He's probably a murderer. That was not my main interest at the time. My main interest was coming here and seeing
a little wooden church.
a little wooden church, which is how I describe a killer. All killers are like little wooden churches. They are temporary structures intended to house the pure lives of something greater than they are. And in the heart of a killer is the desire to achieve something more than themselves. Because killers are sad, cruel little people who can't find a way to express themselves through jigsaws or painting or just staring out of a window. No, they want to create something. They want to create death. Which it turns out is really easy to do. One of the best things about being alive is that you know that you will die. There's no two ways about it. It's certainly clear. Everything that's alive will die, decay, and just end. So really, murderers are people who are hastening on the time. They are just a candle that you don't need because it's still daylight. You know that night will come. They could just wait, but they won't. They won't wait. They're impatient, like a little wooden church. It's like, oh, I can't be asked to wait for the actual papacy to arrive. I can make my own little church here and wait for them to arrive. And then we can compare our weird version of Latin Bibles, and then you can burn my little church down because we're not doing it right. This was Campagnola's issue with the church in general. But it's a sideline and not about the main story. We must get back to the quest. So, nurse, tell me, who has died? Is it...
Fat sheep.
Is it? Who's dying? Is it fat sheep? They deserve our protection too. You know, even if it's a very chubby sheep, still worthy of love. And it might be that fatness is just wool. And that means they're even more valuable. That's wool. Wool's good. He said, well, you may have taken that the wrong way. It's actually...
Anne.
Oh, Anne! Now, Campagnola had a game where she liked to guess people's surnames. Yeah, wait, so, oh, Anne. Is it Anne?
Execution?
Was it Anne Execution? First said, let me show you the crime scene. It looked a lot like that. So Campagnola pulled herself fully all the way into the house. She'd been hanging for the last 10 minutes by her bleeding fingertips. Nurse was keen to let her in. I said, so, this is where the murder happened. Here, within your home. Nurse. Nurse shrugged and said,
Our work was not wasted.
our work was not wasted. Campagnola said, no, it's lovely. I see what you've done here. You've got a whole room nicely laid with clear plastic sheeting. You've got a lovely metal table with rolls of cling film on either side, and a series of tools laid out. Yes, this is a perfect room for a murder. This is very good. So, Anne, execution. What do you know about what happened to her? And he said, I know 3 things. First,
Jill's misadventure was the chief topic of conversation.
Jill's misadventure was a cheap topic of conversation. Campagnola seized upon this immediately. Jill, who we read of in the Times. Jill, the local gossip in Carlton, who causes endless strife and grief by just talking endlessly about nonsense that no one cares about. Nurse confirmed this was indeed true, and he had it. The second thing that I know is...
a pretty little picture of the pearls.
Is that bulls?
Pearls.
Pearls! I know, there's a pretty little picture of the pearls. He pointed with one fat finger to the gleaming steel table that contained a dead person. He said, look, lovely pearls. Campagnola, yes. Weird, they come from the sea, you know. They both nodded wisely to each other. And then turned to the third piece of information.
The old shepherd threw stones instead of minding the flock.
The old shepherd threw stones instead of minding the flock. That's very close to the end of the story. It's actually we got all the facts. Good. So Campagnola combined and assembled these pieces of information ahead. So there was a gossip. There's a dead lady. There was someone who was throwing things. These are all the things I need to do to determine who the murderer actually is. You see, I think the murderer, Nurse, is you. That's exactly how Nurse responded. He was surprised. He thought that his placid demeanour, his blood-spattered apron, and other things would have made him look like an innocent, kind, gentle person. But no, Nurse looked at Campagnola with a crazy look in his eye. Have you ever seen a fish that's about to get eaten by another fish? They're not bright, but they can see death. So when it happens, you just see this sadness in their eye. This sort of glassy surface slides to one side, and it just goes dull a little bit just before they die. Sad. That's what happened to Nurse's eye! Campagnola claimed,
The finding of the secret room.
"The finding of the secret room is mine! This room, it was secret, is it? Was it? Is it secret? Is it secret, Nurse?" And I said, yes, it is secret. Well, it was secret until you found it. Yes! I've done part solve a murder. What we also need is motive, though. You see, Nurse, I like to know why you've killed someone, why you've taken the life of an executioner. Had a lovely name and probably a good job coming to them. And Nurse said,
All the frame of Manuela.
"All the frame of Emmanuel." Oh, the porn movie from the 70s. Oh, okay, no, I see that. So, what we have here is a young man who was thwarted in love, who wanted to achieve the great heights of Farrah Fawcett-style hair and poorly filmed porn scenes. I understand, Nurse. We're all like that inside. We all have a need for.
Jill.
Well, Jill. And if Jill won't come, you just got a jacket by yourself. Campagnola had solved the murder. Since there was no active police force, there's nothing to be done with the criminal. Jill investigated his home. She climbed back out the window and went and popped into whatever that says, superfine quality on the way back to the train. Said, "I would like one, please." They gave her one, she hopped on the train, and off she went. Campagnola Fotherclop, done it again!